In the history books, there's a story filled with hope and excitement, the American Revolutionary War. It was a time when people fought for freedom amidst a time of oppression. Ordinary folks became heroes in a fight against tyranny. Hello there. Welcome to Eventful Insights. Join us as we uncover the thrilling tale of how a nation was born. Today, we're going to talk about the American Revolution. But before we head on to it, which prominent people do you remember from the American Revolution? Comment them below and see if you're right later on in the video. Now let's get started. Colonial America, consisting of 13 colonies along the Atlantic coast, emerged between the 17th and 18th centuries. Each colony distinct in its characteristics, shaped by factors like location, economy, and settlers' motivations. Time-wise, colonial America spanned from the early 1600s to the late 1700s, with significant events such as the founding of Jamestown in 1607 and the onset of the American Revolution in 1775. Diversity was a hallmark of colonial life, with different regions exhibiting varied demographics and ways of life. New England, settled by Puritans seeking religious freedom, emphasized education, shipbuilding, and adherence to strict Calvinist beliefs. In contrast, the middle colonies were more heterogeneous, characterized by religious and ethnic diversity, thriving farming, trading, and cohabitation of diverse populations. Meanwhile, the southern colonies centered around large plantations, heavily reliant on enslaved labor to cultivate cash crops like tobacco and rice. However, during colonial times, life for Americans was shaped by various factors that affected how they were treated. In the southern colonies, many people relied on two main labor systems: indentured servitude and slavery. Indentured servants were poor individuals who agreed to work for a certain number of years in exchange for a trip to America or other benefits. Slaves, on the other hand, were forcibly brought to America and made to work under harsh conditions. These labor systems were crucial for the economy, but led to inequality and hardship. Colonial society had clear social hierarchies, with wealthy landowners and elites having the most power and influence. Poorer farmers and workers struggled to get by, with few chances for improvement. Moving up in society was tough, and most opportunities were reserved for the rich. This divide between the rich and the poor affected life for everyone in the colonies. Discrimination based on things like race, ethnicity, and religion was common. Native Americans were often forced off their land as more settlers arrived. African Americans faced racism and were treated poorly under slavery. Even religious minorities like Quakers and Catholics sometimes faced persecution. These prejudices created tensions and made life difficult for many people. However, with the rise of elected assemblies came a palpable sense of self-reliance and autonomy among colonial communities. As these assemblies gained authority over local affairs, colonists found themselves increasingly involved in shaping the policies and regulations that governed their daily lives. From taxation to land distribution, decisions were made at the grassroots level, reflecting the growing desire for greater control over their destinies and a rejection of external interference. Over time, colonists' experiences with self-governance fueled a growing desire for even greater autonomy at the colonial level. As they became more accustomed to participating in elected assemblies and exercising control over local affairs, colonists began questioning the authority of distant rulers and institutions. This desire for increased political representation and influence would ultimately culminate in fervent calls for independence and the establishment of a government founded on the principles of popular sovereignty. The years leading up to the American Revolution were marked by a series of pivotal events that ignited colonial resistance and paved the way for independence. Among these events were the Stamp Act of 1765, the Boston Massacre, and the Boston Tea Party. each leaving an indelible mark on colonial sentiment and fueling the flames of rebellion against British rule. The Stamp Act of 1765 marked a significant turning point in the relationship between Great Britain and its American colonies, setting off a chain of events that would ultimately lead to revolution. Following the costly French and Indian War, which happened from 1754 to 1763, Britain found itself saddled with substantial war debt and sought ways to raise revenue from its colonies to alleviate financial strain. In March 1765, the British Parliament passed the Stamp Act, imposing a direct tax on the colonists by requiring them to purchase and affix tax stamps to various printed materials, including legal documents, newspapers, pamphlets, and even playing cards and dice. This move sparked widespread outrage among the colonists, who viewed it as a violation of their principle of no taxation without representation. They argued that since they had no representation in Parliament, they should not be subjected to new taxes imposed by the British government. In response to the Stamp Act, groups like the Sons of Liberty emerged throughout the colonies, organizing protests and boycotts against British goods as a form of resistance. The economic pressure generated by these boycotts, coupled with growing political unrest in Britain, eventually led Parliament to repeal the Stamp Act in 1766. However, the passage of the Declaratory Act alongside the repeal, asserting Parliament's right to legislate for the colonies in all cases whatsoever, only served to further fuel colonial resentment and set the stage for future conflicts over autonomy and self-governance. Thus, while the Stamp Act was ultimately repealed, its legacy would continue to reverberate throughout the colonies, laying the groundwork for the American Revolution and the quest for independence. Even though the Stamp Act was cancelled in 1766, the anger it caused didn't go away. It made the colonists more determined to be free from British rule. This set the stage for the Revolutionary War. After that, we have the Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre, which happened on March 5, 1770, was a crucial event that made things worse between America and Britain, pushing them closer to war. Before the massacre, things were already tense. Britain put new taxes on the colonies like the Townshend Acts, but the colonists couldn't say no because they didn't have anyone in the British government speaking for them. And having British soldiers in Boston to make sure the colonists followed these rules just made things even more tense. During the massacre, a fight broke out between some colonists and a British soldier. More people joined in, and shots were fired. 5 colonists were killed, including a man named Crispus Attucks. After the massacre, people in the colonies were enraged at Britain. They said British soldiers attacked them on purpose, and they made pictures showing this. Some British soldiers were put on trial, but they didn't get immense punishments. The massacre also made people in Boston fuming. They demanded the British soldiers leave, and most of them did. But even though they left, people were still upset. And things were tense between the colonies and Britain. This event was a big step towards the colonies wanting to be free from British rule. The Boston Tea Party, occurring on December 16, 1773, marked a significant turning point in the escalating tensions between the American colonies and Great Britain. This dramatic act of defiance against British taxation policies and monopolistic trade practices served as a powerful symbol of colonial resistance and solidarity. Finally, the Boston Tea Party's events were a great catalyst for the Revolutionary War as well. The trigger for the Boston Tea Party was the Tea Act of 1773, passed by the British Parliament. This legislation allowed the financially troubled British East India Company to sell tea directly to the colonies without paying taxes already imposed there. For the colonists, this was deeply resented for 2 main reasons. It represented yet another instance of taxation without representation, as they had no voice in Parliament, and it created a monopoly for the East India Company, disadvantaging colonial merchants. Fueled by frustration, the Sons of Liberty decided to take action. They meticulously planned a daring protest to send a clear message to Britain. To conceal their identities and evade British authorities, the colonists disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians, aligning symbolically with Native Americans who also resented British encroachment on their lands. Under the cover of darkness, on the night of December 16th, the disguised colonists boarded 3 British ships anchored in Boston Harbor: the Dartmouth, the Eleanor, and the Beaver. These ships carried hundreds of chests of tea taxed under the Tea Act. With remarkable efficiency, the colonists proceeded to dump 342 chests of tea, valued at around $1.7 million today, into the harbor. Despite the scale of the operation, no violence occurred during the protest, which lasted several hours. More on that later, but for now, what do you think would have happened if the Revolutionary War never happened? Let me know your theories in the comment section below. And if you want to learn more historical events, interesting facts from the past, and amusing anecdotes as well, go to our channel for more videos. Going back, in 1774, tensions between the colonies and Britain escalated, following the British Parliament's harsh response to the Boston Tea Party through the Intolerable Acts. In response, delegates from 13 colonies convened in Philadelphia for the First Continental Congress. This historic gathering showcased colonial unity and defiance against British oppression. The Congress passed key resolutions, including the Declaration of Rights and Grievances, asserting colonial rights and grievances against British policies. The battles of Lexington and Concord in April 1775 were watershed moments in American history. Triggered by British attempts to seize colonial weapons and supplies, these skirmishes marked the official start of the American Revolutionary War. The battles, though small, symbolized the colonies' determination to defend their liberties against British aggression. Following Lexington and Concord, the Second Continental Congress assembled in Philadelphia in May 1775. Initially, many delegates hoped for reconciliation with Britain, but as the war progressed, the sentiment for independence gained momentum. The Congress assumed control of the colonial war effort, appointing George Washington as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. The turning point came with the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776. Drafted primarily by Thomas Jefferson, this seminal document proclaimed the 13 colonies as free and independent states, severing ties with Great Britain. The declaration outlined the justifications for independence, including grievances against British tyranny and the assertion of inherent rights. A series of major battles played pivotal roles in shaping the outcome of the Revolutionary War. The Battle of Bunker Hill in June 1775, though technically a British victory, showcased the colonists' determination to resist British rule despite suffering heavy casualties. This engagement, fought near Boston, also revealed the inexperience of colonial forces, but prompted a strategic shift in their tactics. The Battle of Saratoga, occurring in September and October 1777, marked a turning point in the war. Led by General Horatio Gates, the Continental Army surrounded and compelled the surrender of a significant British force under General John Burgoyne. This triumph not only lifted American morale, but also persuaded France to formally join the war as an ally, altering the course of the conflict. France chose to support the American colonists in their quest for independence from Great Britain for several important reasons. Firstly, France had a long-standing rivalry with Britain, spanning centuries and involving numerous conflicts. By backing the American colonists, France saw an opportunity to weaken its adversary. A successful American Revolution would diminish British power and influence on the global stage. Additionally, France harbored resentment towards Britain due to their defeat in the 7 Years' War from 1756 to 1763, which resulted in significant losses for France in North America. Supporting the American colonists offered a chance for France to seek revenge and potentially gain economic benefits through future trade agreements with an independent United States. Then, the Siege of Yorktown in October 1781 represented the culmination of French-American cooperation. British General Lord Cornwallis made a crucial strategic error following setbacks in the southern colonies, as he retreated to Yorktown, Virginia, in July of 1781, confident in the Royal Navy's ability to secure his escape and supply lines. Meanwhile, American General George Washington recognized an opportunity for a decisive victory upon learning of Cornwallis's position. He devised a bold plan involving a combined French and American force to trap the British Army on the Virginia Peninsula. This plan hinged on the timely arrival of a French naval fleet under Admiral Comte de Grasse, effectively cutting off Cornwallis' escape route by sea. With the arrival of the French fleet, Washington's Continental Army and French troops, led by General Comte de Rochambeau, besieged Yorktown, constructing trenches and launching artillery barrages against British fortifications. Despite attempts by the British to break the siege lines, the combined Franco-American forces steadily mounted pressure, inflicting heavy casualties and significant damage. Eventually, with the French fleet controlling the Chesapeake Bay and facing relentless bombardment, Cornwallis attempted to escape across the York River, but was thwarted by a storm. Realizing the hopelessness of his situation, Cornwallis initiated negotiations on October 17th, leading to the formal surrender of the British Army to the combined Franco-American forces on October 19th, 1781. This chain of events marked a turning point in the American Revolutionary War, as Cornwallis's surrender effectively ended major fighting in the conflict and paved the way for peace negotiations between Britain and the United States. The victory at Yorktown bolstered American and French morale, demonstrating the effectiveness of cooperation between the two allies. It also highlighted the significance of naval power in determining the outcome of battles during the war. Key figures played indispensable roles in guiding the revolutionary cause. George Washington, as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, provided steady leadership despite facing numerous challenges, including harsh winters, dwindling resources, and discontent among troops. Benjamin Franklin, serving as a diplomat in Europe, played a crucial role in securing French support for the American cause and obtaining vital financial and military aid. The Continental Army emerged as a pivotal force during the American Revolutionary War, representing the unified efforts of the 13 colonies to secure their independence from British rule. Established by the Second Continental Congress in 1775, it embodied the collective determination and resolve of the colonies to confront British aggression and assert their rights to liberty and self-determination. Formed in response to escalating hostilities at Lexington and Concord, the Continental Army was a transformation of existing colonial militias into a cohesive fighting force. Unlike its predecessors, it symbolized a national endeavor, representing all 13 colonies in their struggle for freedom. Among other notable figures were Marquis de Lafayette, a young French nobleman who volunteered his military expertise to the Continental Army, and Nathaniel Greene, a skilled American general who revitalized the Southern campaign. Additionally, women made significant contributions beyond the battlefield, providing logistical support, managing farms, and engaging in espionage. Foreign allies, particularly France, played a pivotal role in supporting the American Revolution. Motivated by a desire to weaken their rival, Great Britain, France provided crucial financial aid, military supplies, and a formidable naval fleet that proved instrumental in securing victory at Yorktown. While Spain also joined the conflict on the American side, their contributions were primarily focused on containing British forces in the south. In essence, without the support of foreign allies, particularly France, the American Revolution might have ended differently. Their assistance, both financial and military, proved decisive in tipping the scales in favor of the colonists' struggle for independence, cementing their place in history as indispensable partners in the fight for liberty. Following a string of defeats, the Continental Army sought refuge at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, during the harsh winter of 1777 to 1778. The conditions were unforgiving, with insufficient provisions of food, clothing, and shelter, leading to widespread illness and a rise in desertion. Amidst the adversity, General George Washington's leadership emerged as a beacon of strength. His unwavering resolve and strategic prowess played a pivotal role in sustaining the army during this trying period. Implementing measures to instill discipline among the troops, Washington also managed to secure much-needed aid from Prussia, while simultaneously boosting morale through rigorous training and reorganization efforts. Valley Forge marked a significant turning point for the Continental Army. Despite the immense challenges, their resilience and dedication to the cause remained unwavering. The experience underscored the critical importance of improved logistical support and enhanced provisions for the troops. Ultimately, the trials endured at Valley Forge served to strengthen the Continental Army, paving the way for future triumphs on the battlefield. Finally, the Treaty of Paris, ratified on September 3, 1783, signified the formal conclusion of the American Revolutionary War. With its signing, Great Britain officially acknowledged the independence of the 13 colonies, which were henceforth recognized as the United States of America. Moreover, the treaty delineated the geographical boundaries of the new nation, extending to the Mississippi River. Despite the treaty's significance as a triumph for American independence, it did not mark the end of challenges for the fledgling nation. The aftermath of the war left the United States grappling with a host of issues, including the burden of war debts, economic instability, and the inadequacies of a weak central government. These challenges underscored the need for concerted efforts to address the nation's pressing concerns and establish a foundation for its future growth and stability. After gaining independence, the new states needed a way to govern themselves. So, in 1781, they adopted the Articles of Confederation, which aimed to unite the states but keep them mostly independent. However, these articles had some big problems. They couldn't collect taxes well, control trade, or keep a strong national army. This caused money troubles and made it hard to deal with important national issues. Despite these issues, the Articles did help the states work together. This experience led to the creation of a better constitution, which made a stronger national government. In the aftermath of the American Revolution, the new nation faced a series of formidable challenges. The war had exacted a heavy toll, leaving behind a significant national debt that threatened economic stability. Resolving this financial burden and grappling with issues like taxation emerged as urgent priorities to set the country on a path toward recovery. However, alongside economic concerns, there existed a profound debate over the distribution of power between the federal government and individual states. This ongoing struggle over authority, known as federalism versus states' rights, permeated the nation's political landscape and would continue to shape its development in the years to come. The tension between centralized authority and state sovereignty remained a constant source of contention, with implications reaching far beyond the immediate post-war period. Despite these challenges, the aftermath of the American Revolution also heralded a period of remarkable transformation. As the newly independent nation sought to establish its identity and place in the world, it grappled with the daunting task of creating a functional government and addressing pressing social issues. Yet, amidst the turmoil, the revolutionary ideals of liberty, equality, and self-determination continued to guide the nation's trajectory. These principles, which had fueled the fervor of the revolution, remained deeply ingrained in the collective consciousness of the American people. As the United States navigated the complexities of nation-building, these foundational values served as a beacon of hope and inspiration, guiding its journey toward a more perfect union. That is all for today's video. Do you have any person in mind that you think had the greatest contribution to the Revolutionary War? Share your thoughts in the comment section. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell to be updated on our next videos. Thanks for watching.